We do have our political analyst, Clancey Dubose, on the line. And you know, when this indictment first came down, Jason Williams did say he thought it was all political.
Yeah, I still don't think it was political. I just think the government did a really poor job of putting on its case, so poor that Jason Williams' lawyers, who are excellent lawyers, some of them former U.S. prosecutors, didn't feel the need to put on a case. They just argued after they cross-examined the government's so-called star witness, who was not much of a star witness, and the jury responded. But what puzzles me is the same thing that puzzled Harry Rosenberg, that for Mr. Williams to be found not guilty on all counts, and for Nicole Burdett to then be found guilty. It does seem like a compromise verdict, but it just seems like a strange compromise. But,
yeah.
You know, that's the system, and we all live with it, and we accept it. It's going to be a really tough time for Nicole Burdett. And I'm sure it's a bittersweet moment for Williams as well. I mean, they were law partners and did a lot of work together, and were very successful. And so he might have a little bit of survivor's guilt at some level on this. But also to comment on a political matter not related to the case in the sense of the indictment being politicized, but I also agree that he's going to get a bounce. And from the time he took office more than a year and a half ago, that office has kind of been under a cloud. Now that cloud has been lifted. Yeah. And Eric, you and I have been around long enough to remember that another local district attorney, two other district attorneys, Harry Connick and Jim Garrison, were both accused of federal crimes, and both of them were also acquitted. Yeah. So the federal government, while it has a 97% conviction rate on tax cases, it has a 0% conviction rate on New Orleans district attorneys.
And Clancey, I'm sure you were like when Mike Pearlstein and I were sitting here and we heard the 4 counts come down. And again, these are separate counts that Nicole Burdett was convicted of from the 10 that she and Jason Williams were facing together. I mean, I'm going, oh, this can't be good for Jason, or for his case. But then they started reading the verdicts, and they all came in not guilty.
Yeah, again, I think I believe, and forgive me, I wasn't in the courtroom, but I believe that the counts that she was convicted on are separate and apart.
They are separate, yes.
The conspiracy issues and things that involve her and Jason Williams. And it probably, I'd have to go back and check, but it might well be that those 4 counts are actually present in the, if you recall, they did a superseding indictment against her. Right. And it might be those counts. That, well, I'll have to check.
And I was thinking, because when they read those guilty verdicts first, I can't imagine what it was like for Jason Williams sitting there thinking, oh no, if they got her on this, are they going to get me?
Well, as Harry, again, to quote Harry, I think he nailed it. He said Jason needs to perhaps make a novena or say a thank you prayer to the patron saint of criminal defendants, whoever that might be. He's I think in some ways first of all, we all know he had both of these defendants had excellent legal representation. Yes. I think the government's lawyers looked like the third string. And if nothing else, and I'm not saying that Williams was guilty, but when you consider what they were alleging in the indictment, they didn't come close to driving those things home in court. And I think the defense made a very good point when they said, look, he's working this out. It was almost a sense of jury nullification as regards to Jason Williams, because they just didn't want to convict him if he's already starting to pay back that money. And Harry Connick was a popular DA when he got indicted, and Jim Garrison is a legendary figure who took over his own defense halfway through the trial. And that this may not be relevant to a lot of your viewers, but I mean, it puts this in a perspective. It is not easy to obtain a conviction against a popular a political figure.
I think that's why Jason Williams was saying from the beginning he thought this was politically motivated. But when you look at the U.S. Attorney's Office, I mean, whether you like it or not, they go for wins and hate losses. This is a big loss for them as far as Jason Williams is concerned, but they can claim a win on Nicole Burdett.
Yeah, but let's face it, the federal prosecutors are trophy hunters.
Yep.
They were gunning for Jason Williams, and Nicole Burdett herself had described herself as collateral damage, and they cannot count this as a win. This is a loss for them. But obviously for Nicole Burdett, it's a bigger loss, and you know, I'm sure her lawyers are already contemplating the basis for an appeal.
Yeah, and again, there was a lot of talk that Williams might take a plea deal or Burdett might take a plea deal. It was not in their best interest to do this. It was better, at least for them, to roll the dice, because if they take a plea deal, they're going to lose their law license. He would lose his seat as a DA. If it goes to court, at least he has a chance.
Well, it really depends on what the plea deal is. If the plea deal had been for a misdemeanor, they would not have lost their license.
That probably wouldn't have been the deal, though.
Yeah, no, and that's not the deal that the feds were willing to offer, obviously. You know, it's at this point, it's Monday morning quarterbacking.
Sure.
It worked out great for Jason Williams, but it worked out disastrously for Nicole Burdett. So, you know, at least at this stage, now the process allows her to appeal, and she's got two more layers of appeals that she can use. But, you know, we'll just have to see how that plays out.
Well, and I think you're right.
But in terms of the city of New Orleans and politics, I think Jason Williams is going to come back stronger politically than he was, certainly than he has been since he got elected. And I think he has the potential to be a very serious political force, as he was already before the indictment. In New Orleans politics.
Well, and he really never showed any cracks in his armor throughout this entire process. He was here on the morning show a while back, and I had asked him if because he was talking about the crime in the city and the things he's facing, and I asked him, I said, is focusing on your federal trial taking away a lot of time and thought for you? And he said, no. He said, my time is just toward looking at crime here in New Orleans.
Yeah, and frankly, it's almost as if when he goes back to the office, it's almost as if he is having his first day there all over again, because when he started, there was under this cloud, and now that cloud has been lifted. It's going to be a whole new day for him. He can now focus all of his time, all of his attention on the DA's job, and you really have to be naive to think that he was not able to, or to think that he was able to focus all of his attention on the DA's office. But now we're really going to see what kind of DA he is.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there was a cloud on him because he was elected while he was under indictment.
Yes, so which in some ways was a vindication. People in New Orleans obviously believe you really are innocent until proven guilty, and it turns out he was not proven guilty. And again, I'm not saying that he was guilty or should have been convicted, but the federal government did not put on a very good case. They really didn't. They got out-lawyered at many turns, and they just didn't prove it. I mean, the jury, you know, to come back not guilty on all counts, there was not even a sniff of a compromise as regards to Jason Williams. So the jury just didn't buy it.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a stunning day today. And what were your thoughts? And I mean, because we all had thoughts about what would happen in this trial. Were you surprised by the outcome?
No. I think, again, as Harry Rosenberg said, I'm a lawyer, but Harry was an assistant U.S. attorney.
He was U.S. attorney.
Far better than I. Right? I'm sorry, he was the U.S. attorney. I'm sorry. But he, you know, when he said that taking 16 hours to deliberate, that's not, when you have 11 counts, I think, against Jason. 10
against Williams.
10 survived, right, because one was thrown out. But initially 11, then 10. But then also multiple counts against her. The jury took its time and looked at each count and made its decision. And I think that's the only thing we can surmise by this verdict. I was not willing to take a guess on what the verdict was going to be. But it was, put it this way, it was a gutsy move by the lawyers, by the defense lawyers, and at least for Jason Williams, it paid off because, he certainly could have taken the stand, and she could have taken the stand, but they said, no, this case is so poor, we don't need to put on a defense. And that was correct in terms of Jason, but, it's something that I'm sure the lawyer, Ms. Burdett's lawyers are perhaps rethinking, but, again, I think they're already talking about and thinking about what the basis of their appeal might be.
All right, Clancy. Clancy, thank you very much. We appreciate your thoughts on this. Let's go back out to